Have you ever met someone who no longer fears rejection, betrayal, or abandonment, and wondered, how did they become that way? Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and asked, why does everything affect me so deeply while others seem untouched? And have you ever wished to feel nothing, not out of numbness, but from the kind of strength that whispers, I am safe within myself? If you've ever asked these questions in silence, this message is for you. Welcome to a place where healing begins, not by avoiding pain, but by understanding it. This is your channel, Stoic and Still, where we dive deep into the timeless wisdom of psychology, philosophy, and the soul. Before we begin, I invite you to do something gentle for your future self. If even one part of today's message stirs something within you, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a comment below. I choose to feel deeply and rise stronger. Let's begin together, with awareness, with courage, and with clarity. We all long to be unshakable, to walk through life without being so vulnerable to criticism, to rejection, to the silent disappointments that carve into us deeper than words ever could. But maybe, just maybe, you've reached a point where you're tired of trying to appear strong when inside you feel like you're breaking, tired of holding everything together, of always being the one who has it figured out, tired of feeling like you have to be perfect just to be loved. And the truth is, you're not alone. So many carry this invisible ache, this quiet anguish beneath the surface, while smiling politely, working hard, appearing fine. But underneath that mask, there's a fragile hope. Maybe one day, I won't have to pretend anymore. Let me offer you a truth that may sting at first, but can also set you free. As long as you try to avoid pain, it will continue to control you. Every time you flinch from discomfort, every time you push your feelings away, you give them more power. Because avoiding pain is not the same as healing it. And numbing your heart does not make you stronger. It only makes you hollow. Carl Jung once said, "We are not what happens to us, but what we choose to become." And here lies the quiet revolution. It's not about building higher walls or thicker skin. It's not about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about bringing everything you've pushed into the shadows, into the light. That, my friend, is where real strength is born. True resilience does not mean smiling when you're bleeding inside. It means being able to see your wounds clearly and still say, I know who I am whole, even here. You may think that what hurts you is the betrayal of a loved one, or the silence of someone who used to care, or the harsh words that were never taken back. But the truth is far deeper than that. What hurts is not what was done to you. It's what those actions awaken within you. It's the old pain they echo. The story you've been telling yourself about your worth. The inner wound that never quite healed and keeps being touched again and again. You see, everyone has scars, but some people have learned to integrate them. They've made peace with their shadows. They don't pretend they were never hurt. They've just stopped identifying with the pain. Meanwhile, others, perhaps like you, are still bleeding from wounds long buried, still trying to be good enough so they don't get hurt again, still trying to control how the world responds to them. But here's a secret. Control is an illusion. You can't predict what others will say. You can't avoid every disappointment. You can't guarantee that you'll never be hurt. But what you can do is awaken. Awaken to the realization that pain only has power over you when there is something inside that still fears it. That is where we begin. Not by fighting the world, but by befriending the part of you that still feels small, still feels unloved, still longs to be seen. The battlefield is not out there, it's within. And the moment you recognize this is the moment you begin to reclaim your freedom. In the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll explore how everything that's been hidden, everything unconscious, rules your life until you face it. But for now, pause, breathe. You've already taken the first step. And if this message touched a part of your soul, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment and share. What part of you is ready to stop pretending and finally be free? And don't forget subscribe so we can walk this journey together. Every step of the way. You're not alone anymore. Let's keep going. Most people believe that they are in control of their lives. They wake up, make plans, pursue goals, and they think they are consciously steering the wheel. But if that were true, why do you keep sabotaging yourself? Why do you repeat patterns that destroy your peace? Why do certain moments, words, or people trigger reactions so intense, so irrational? You don't even recognize yourself. Carl Jung didn't leave us in the dark on this. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Let that sink in. As long as the unconscious remains hidden, you are not the one choosing. It is the hidden parts of you, your forgotten wounds, your buried shame, your suppressed desires and fears that are actually running the show. The pain you feel that seems to come out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came from deep inside. It came from the unspoken grief of your childhood. It came from the moment you felt unseen, unheard, unloved, and no one told you it was okay to feel that. These aren't random feelings. They are signals, whispers from your unconscious mind, asking, sometimes begging, to be acknowledged. The sadness that catches you off guard, the anger that erupts like a volcano, the numbness that quietly suffocates your joy. They are all pieces of you that have been exiled from awareness, yet still influence every choice you make. You may ask, why do some people break down from a small argument, while others remain calm in disaster? Because what breaks you isn't what happens. It's what it touches within you. And if you've never taken time to explore that terrain, to look inward instead of outward, you'll forever be tossed around by waves you don't even know are coming. Jung referred to this hidden terrain as the unconscious. But it's not a mystical fog. It's real. It's the collection of your past experiences, the emotional charges you couldn't process at the time, the roles you adopted to be loved or to survive. You see, when something painful happens and you're not ready to face it, your psyche hides it for you. It tucks it away like a wound beneath a bandage, but never forgets where it's stored. That's why you keep repeating toxic relationships. That's why you fear abandonment so deeply. That's why compliments feel uncomfortable and rejection feels fatal. You're not broken. You're just unaware of the systems inside you that are still reacting to a pain from long ago. Jung once said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it." Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. So the question is, what parts of yourself are you still condemning? Do you still carry shame for being too emotional? Do you still silence your needs because someone once told you they were too much? Do you still pretend to be okay because vulnerability was punished in your past? Then your unconscious is still running the show. You think you're free, but you're not. Not until you shine light on the parts you've buried. And here's the hard truth. The unconscious doesn't just go away when ignored. It doesn't dissolve in time. It only finds sneakier, more destructive ways to speak up. It shows up in the relationships you attract, in the mistakes you keep repeating, in the fears that sneak up on you even when everything seems to be going well. This is not bad luck. This is not fate. This is your unconscious trying to wake you up. And still, you keep sleeping. But there is another way. A way that doesn't involve resisting your pain or pretending it's not there. And it starts by turning toward your shadows. By asking, with compassion, not judgment, what is this pain trying to show me? If you continue to run from what's inside you, you will forever be controlled by it. You will always be reacting instead of choosing. You will always be triggered instead of understanding. And that is a prison. A beautiful, invisible prison decorated with achievements and smiles. But here's something revolutionary. You can choose to become whole. Not by becoming perfect, not by eliminating all darkness, but by facing it, integrating it, and realizing that your shadows hold wisdom too. Because every fear has a message. Every pain holds a story. Every wound still bleeding is waiting to be held, not hidden. And when you start listening, everything changes. You stop being controlled. You stop being triggered. You stop needing life to be easy in order to be okay. Because you've reclaimed your power from the shadows and brought it back to the light of your awareness. And that is the beginning of emotional freedom. Let's pause here. Which part of your unconscious have you been afraid to face? Have you noticed certain patterns repeating in your life? In love, in conflict, in the way you respond to pain? Share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who might feel seen by your story. And remember to subscribe. The next part of this journey dives deeper into how pain, instead of being your enemy, can actually become the gateway to your transformation. We're just beginning. By now, you've seen the truth. That much of your suffering doesn't come from the outside, but from within. Not because you're weak, but because there are places in you that were never given a chance to be heard, to be healed. But awareness is only the beginning. Healing requires a descent, a journey. Carl Jung called this path individuation, and it is not a path of comfort. It's a path of fire. A path that doesn't promise ease, but it does promise truth. It promises liberation. Individuation means becoming who you truly are, not who the world told you to be, not who you pretended to be so you could belong, but the version of yourself that rises when the masks fall off. But to reach that, you must unlearn. You must let go of the image you've spent years perfecting. The identity shaped around survival, the strong one, the quiet one, the always fine one, because those versions of you, as noble as they were never complete, and letting them go feels like death. Jung warned us, this path will destroy your ego, but not to punish you, to rebuild you from truth. That's why so few people ever walk this road, and fewer still complete it, because individuation requires the collapse of everything that is false, everything that is borrowed, everything that was never truly yours to carry. And that kind of collapse hurts. It feels like losing yourself, but what you're really losing is the illusion of yourself. You are not your titles. You are not your wounds. You are not the applause you chased or the approval you begged for. You are something deeper, something untouched. But to find it, you must descend into the chaos, into the silence, into the parts of you that you've avoided your whole life. This is the sacred unraveling. The moment you finally sit with your shame and whisper, I see you. The moment you stop blaming the world and start listening to what your pain has been trying to say. The moment you turn to your anger and say, I'm here now. You don't have to scream anymore. That is how you become unshakable. Not by hardening, but by softening. Not by pushing people away, but by no longer abandoning yourself. The more you integrate, the less reactive you become. And the less reactive you are, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because now, no one can manipulate you through your wounds. No one can shatter you with rejection. No one can control you with guilt. Why? Because you've met your shadows. You've made peace with them. They no longer hold power over you. And that is the essence of emotional strength. Not being invulnerable, but being whole. Wholeness is not perfection. It is integration. It is knowing where you've been broken and holding those pieces with love. It is walking through life no longer needing to prove yourself because you finally accept yourself. Jung called it a journey of return, not forward into some future ideal, but inward into what has always been waiting to be reclaimed. You see, healing doesn't make you superhuman. It simply brings you back to your humanity, raw, flawed, radiant, alive. And that is more powerful than any armor. Because when you finally accept who you are, with your brilliance and your bruises, there is nothing left to fear. You no longer need the world to reflect your worth because you've seen it in yourself. That is the moment you become truly free. And yes, this freedom will cost you. You will lose relationships that were built on your silence. You will outgrow environments where pretending was survival. You will walk away from people who only loved your mask. And yes, that loneliness will come, not because you are unlovable, but because you have stopped shrinking to be loved. And the world may not understand this version of you, but that's okay, because for the first time, you understand you, and that is more than enough. Pause and reflect. What false roles have you been playing just to be accepted? Which masks have overstayed their welcome? Share in the comments. Your honesty might be the mirror someone else needs. And if this resonates, subscribe now. The next part is crucial. We'll explore how pain, far from being your enemy, can become the exact fire that forges your power. Let's walk there together. You were taught to hate pain, to fear it, to run from it like it's a monster that must be avoided at all costs. Since you were young, you've been told that crying is weakness, that vulnerability is dangerous, that emotional wounds should be hidden, distracted from, or silenced. So, you learned to numb yourself. You learned to put on a smile even when your soul was breaking. You learned to say, "I'm okay," when everything inside you screamed otherwise. But here's the truth that no one taught you. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. It is your guide. It is the fire that burns through illusion so that your truth may rise from the ashes. Carl Jung saw this with rare clarity. He once said, "Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her in. Offer her a seat and listen to what she has to say." That single quote carries a revolution because it doesn't deny the darkness. It doesn't resist the ache. It welcomes it, not with fear, but with reverence. When pain shows up in your life, not the surface pain of a scraped knee or a missed opportunity, but the deep, soul-aching kind, it's because something inside you is ready to transform. You may not know what yet, you may not even be able to name it, but your suffering always points to a part of you that wants to evolve, that is tired of living in hiding. The problem is, your ego doesn't like change. Your ego wants safety, sameness, and control. So it resists, it fights back. It tells you things like, this sadness is wrong. This anger is dangerous. This grief must be buried. But emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. They arrive with trembling hands and cracked voices to tell you what words cannot. They show you where love was missing, where boundaries were broken, where the child inside you still waits to be seen, to be held, to be healed. But instead of listening, you often do what you've been trained to do. You push it down, you distract, you numb, you move faster so you don't have to feel. And pain, like a guest turned away, begins to knock louder. It becomes anxiety. It becomes burnout. It becomes rage you can't explain, or sadness that arrives out of nowhere. You don't even know why you're crying anymore. All you know is that you can't keep pretending. You can't keep running. You can't keep holding everything together when the pieces inside you are falling apart. But here's the miracle. You don't have to run anymore, because pain doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to free you. It wants to melt away the masks you've worn for too long. It wants to break the walls that keep you isolated. It wants to strip you of everything false so that only what's real can remain. This is the sacred function of suffering. It brings you home. It collapses the identity built on fear and makes space for the self born of truth. And yes, it hurts. Because letting go of the old means facing the grief of who you thought you had to be. It means shedding the roles you performed to feel worthy. It means saying goodbye to what once kept you safe, even if it's killing your spirit now. But inside this devastation, there is an opening, a quiet doorway, and when you walk through it, you will meet the version of yourself you've always been, underneath it all. Not the strong one, not the pleasing one, not the perfect one, but the real one. The one who feels deeply, the one who breaks and rebuilds, the one who despite the pain still chooses to love, and from that place, your life begins again, not from survival, but from authenticity. This is how pain becomes sacred, not because it feels good, but because it leads you to what is good, what is lasting, what is real. Carl Jung believed that every wound is an invitation to consciousness, and the deeper the wound, the greater the potential for light to enter. So instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start asking, "What is this pain asking me to awaken to?" Because beneath the suffering is a message, a breakthrough, a part of your soul that is ready to rise, and the only way out is in. Take a deep breath. Now, ask yourself, what pain have you been running from that might actually be trying to heal you? Share in the comments. Your honesty may be someone else's hope. And if this part touched you, subscribe to Stoic and Still, because in the next part, we'll explore how to walk through the fire and come out whole. Let's keep going, deeper than ever. When you stop being available to everyone, something profound begins to unfold. First, there's the silence. And it's not the kind of silence that feels peaceful at first. It's the kind that aches. It whispers questions into the empty spaces where conversations used to live. It makes you wonder, did I do the right thing? Am I being selfish? Will they hate me now? But beneath that discomfort, there is a sacred unfolding, a quiet unraveling of every illusion you once held about your worth being tied to hoe. This silence, uncomfortable as it may be, is the gateway to your freedom. Because slowly, as the noise fades, you start to hear something else, something older than the world's approval, something wiser than the roles you once played. You begin to hear your own voice, and it doesn't beg to be liked. It doesn't scream to be understood. It simply exists, whole, present, undeniably you. Carl Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires a step away from the collective, a turning inward, a temporary walk through solitude that reveals the depth of your being. And this solitude, it is not absence, it is presence. Not the presence of others, but the profound presence of yourself. You begin to notice your own rhythms, your own preferences, your real boundaries. You begin to remember what peace feels like, not the peace of pleasing everyone, but the peace. You realize that you don't need to answer every message to be kind, that you don't need to explain your silence to prove your worth, that your availability is not a reflection of your love. It is a reflection of your energy, and your energy is sacred, limited, precious. You begin to walk into rooms with a new kind of gravity, one that doesn't come from being loud or agreeable, but from being whole. People can feel it. Some are drawn to it. Others are unsettled by it. But none can ignore it. Because when you are no longer available for emotional games, when you stop chasing approval, when you stop watering dead plants, you become powerful. And yet, this power doesn't roar. It whispers. It radiates. It doesn't need recognition. It simply is. Some people will drift away, and it will hurt. Not because you need them, but because once they filled a space in your life that you hadn't yet learned to fill yourself. Their leaving isn't rejection, it's redirection, a sacred clearing of everything that was never aligned with your truth. You may find yourself standing alone more often, but you'll also find that solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. And in that clarity, the right people begin to appear. Not because you chase them, but because your energy finally makes space for them. They don't demand your availability. They honor your boundaries. They don't need to be entertained. They just want to be present. And in that shared presence, there is healing. You are no longer drawn to chaos. You are no longer seduced by drama. You no longer mistake urgency for importance or attention for love. You are learning to rest in your own presence, to breathe without apologizing, to say no without guilt, and to say yes only when it's aligned with your soul. This is not the end of connection, it's the rebirth of connection on your terms, no longer driven by fear or emptiness, but by truth, depth, sovereignty. So I ask you, who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when there is no one left to impress, to fix, to explain yourself to? Can you sit with that version of you in stillness and call it home? If you can, then something extraordinary has begun. You are not just healing, you are remembering. You are remembering the sound of your own soul. You are remembering what it feels like to belong to yourself. Write in the comments, I return to myself. Because sometimes the most powerful love story is the one where you come back to you.